Thank you for joining the CatholicgenX podcast. We're having our summer variety special out on Tom Shot out here in the Caribbean. Good to be with all of you. Father Peter.
Hello.
Tom.
Good evening.
So how's your summer going, gentlemen?
Good. It's been busier than I expected it to be, but not bad. Yeah.
Busier? You got an associate.
I did get an associate pastor. I did.
Got more free time than you've ever had in your life.
Balls.
That's right. Sleep in now. Hit the snooze a few more times. Absolutely.
So let's talk about Father's free time for just a second.
Okay.
So a couple weeks ago, you went on a road trip. John called it a boondoggle. I like to think it was truly work-related.
It was
Who under
work-related.
90 says
I went and gave a retreat.
Yeah, so
priests.
I'm curious, and our listeners may or may not be, probably aren't. What does that mean? Like, gave a retreat to priests.
So
That sounds like a tough audience.
it is a tough audience, and it was a little nerve-wracking. But so I was asked to go to the Diocese of Crookston, Minnesota, and give a retreat for their priests. About 2/3 of the priests of the diocese were there. We had 2 conferences a day that I gave, plus I gave a homily every day at Mass.
Do you feel like they're judging you?
After the first couple of conferences, I got the sense that they were enjoying the experience, so that lessened the anxiety a whole lot. But at the beginning, like especially that first conference where I don't really know anybody and I don't know where they're at very well, then that's a pretty nerve-wracking experience for me.
Is giving a homily to a church full of priests?
Oh, terrifying. Especially in this case, like the bishop was presiding and I was just preaching. And so I was always a little surprised he didn't get up afterwards and give a real
So I feel like rotten fruit.
We're going to clarify some of the things that Father Peter just said.
Right. But yeah, it went well.
It would seem like that would be a pretty tough, kind of hostile crowd, and look out there and priests are just kind of shaking their heads.
Yes. I think we've discussed before, I'm an attorney by trade, and I would love to sit on a jury someday, but I don't think there's an attorney in the world that would allow another attorney to be on the jury.
Oh, they know you personally probably too, so.
That might get me on.
Yeah, I don't know how well would probably work for the defendant.
So, on your way to the conference, you listened to a podcast that I had suggested. Don't Be Weird.
Oh, yeah.
Have
Another
you listened
Catholic
to it yet, John?
No.
It was good. It was good. I liked it.
We had just had a conversation along those lines. I don't remember the name of the podcast. It was...
It was a couple of priests and a lay minister or something.
And it was all about how just don't be weird. Like it's great to be faithful. It's great to but just don't be weird about it.
That may be hard for the 3 of us.
Well, after listening to that, I think we're pretty mainstream.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff they were coming with, it's been a few months since I listened to it. Some of the criticisms, were you listening to it and shaking your head? Like,
yeah.
Wow. People really will criticize or give you feedback on just minute details.
Everything.
I'm not talking about the seminarians that get assigned to our parish.
Right. It's twice as bad from the seminarians. But yeah, I mean, people complain about the lighting and the sound system and the music and the homily and vestments.
Does anybody ever complain about the fact that we just don't do litanies very often?
Only you. You're the only person I've ever met complain.
What century you want to go to?
Litanies.
I just think the Catholic Church would be more welcoming with more litanies.
Well, you do have that bumper sticker that says, ask me about litanies. So, Tom, you mentioned we do have an associate pastor now, too. And you had kind of an interesting question.
Well, yes. So our associate pastor is from Africa.
Right.
And he was formed in Africa.
Yes.
But we also have a deacon this summer who is from Africa, but he's being formed here in the United States, correct?
Correct.
So my question was, when we have foreign priests who come here, I'm sure that creates cultural issues, but more, I guess, not more importantly, but I'm a little more interested, when a priest is formed here and then goes back to Africa, does that lead to the church becoming Americanized, for lack of a better phrase?
I think to some extent it does, but like one of the big differences amongst the universal church is American suburban church is a very particular kind of animal. That we have a lot of staff and we have a school and like an office and not just a rectory. Um, in many, many countries, if you need the priest, you go to the rectory and knock on the door, and the priest is there, or the housekeeper says he's at the hospital, um, and he's just available to you. And in some countries, like any kind of problem you're having, you'll take to the priest for advice or kind of adjudication. But in America, like I run a $4 million annual budget organization, and that requires a fair amount of office time to just keep everything operating as it should, right?
So is it fair to say that here in the U.S. that priests have more administrative duties than they
Definitely, definitely. When all you have in most places is the church building and the rectory, that's a very. I mean, we own 30 acres, more than that.
Oh, wow.
So, we've got a lot of land and buildings to take care of and keep upkeep. But, today I had to make a decision on whether or not to get a new door for the front door of the office building.
do? Today was your day off.
I know, but
Wow.
I'm a hardworking priest.
What a priest.
Dear audience, I'm really the laziest priest in the diocese. So,
Well, I would say top 5. I don't know. You've never been the
you
pinnacle.
won't let me be the first in anything.
He places he doesn't win.
So, who has the bigger challenge? A priest who is formed in a foreign country and comes to the U.S., or a priest who is formed in the U.S. but then goes home to
I think a priest who is formed overseas and comes here because, as I said, the church operates just differently here, and the people are different, right? I think even in a rural parish where you have less infrastructure, people don't show up at the rectory door for just any old little problem or whatever. And Father's not expected necessarily to be in the office all the time. He's out at the hospital or the nursing home or visiting people or whatever. Whereas I think if you're formed here and go to serve overseas, you do get some real good skill in pastoral care and counseling and some other skills that the American church values that are transferable, even if kind of what you learned about running a parish doesn't apply.
So when we were kids growing up,
Yeah.
we were kind of the tail end of most parishes, especially larger parishes, had multiple priests.
Right.
When like when the deacon, when he's ordained and goes back to Africa, will that be his experience in Africa? Will most churches have?
Yes. But in Africa, you typically have one main parish and then several mission outposts that can be pretty far away from the main parish. And you may only get to each of those mission outposts once a month.
Are they far enough away that you would spend the night there? Or
Yeah, I mean they're usually anywhere between a half and 2 hour distance. So
Wow.
but you kind of had that in your younger days, right? You were assigned to the seminary, but you spent your weekends at a.
yeah. I mean I drove between Minard and Indianapolis quite a bit back in the day, but now I'm old and
Cranky
they
and-
take it easy
That's
on
right.
me.
As opposed to being young and cranky.
Right.
That's right. I was thinking more Sterling Tom. So there is room within the church, though, as far as like cultural preferences for the liturgy. Is that true?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I've
I
read.
think I know what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, so, and I don't know as far as specifically of where I have read that you can have, based upon, and maybe the Pope has said this too, but don't quote me on that, but something about that where it is permissible within reason to have something which is included in the rite of the mass, as far as like something to do with culture, like local
Yeah.
culture.
So I think you would find in like, since we've been talking about Africa in particular, in many places of Africa, the procession of the gifts to the altar would look very different than it would in America. Um, Partly it wouldn't be just money, it would be also some food stuff,
Hmm.
eggs or bread or vegetables. Um, uh, Partly the Vatican has okayed in Africa the use of some types of dance or rhythmic movement during that procession as an act of praise to God because um, uh, dance means a lot more in Africa than it does here in the States.
Mm-hmm. Tom's thinking about.
Not Tom.
Okay. Yeah. So there is room for that, but it's something where it would have to be.
It has to be deeply rooted in and authentic to the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like a lot of times in the States, you see so called liturgical dance, and it has nothing to do with our culture. Um, dance in the United States is it's a social thing, but it's also largely like a courting thing. It's something a man and a woman do together when they're romantically interested, and not just a spontaneous breakout in rhythmic movement.
There's no such thing as like a church conga line.
No, no.
Oh my God.
Y'all are going to get me in trouble.
No, we're not. It's too much. It's too much. There's like 5 people in the world who are going to get this.
I gave a conference this past week to the interns of the college interns of the One Bread, One Cup program, and it didn't fully register that I had a parishioner in there. And so I was talking about kind of things at Mass, and I made an offhand comment about puppets.
Mm-hmm.
And this poor girl burst out laughing. And luckily she was okay with that reference, but it was mildly embarrassing in the moment.
Well, Tom has like liturgical puppets here for the boys and things like that too, like practice going to Mass. And
So John and I have a nickname. I think you probably have heard this. We're Waldorf and Stout.
Yes.
that's right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Um,
Which is why when I see the two of you in Mass, I'm always on my best behavior.
If only we had a choir loft, we could be up there just kind of
So,
jeering
right.
and laughing.
we had something really
Right.
funny happen this week at Mass, and I meant to ask you about this, but I'm going to put you on the spot now. Being
Okay,
recorded.
I don't remember. Was this
So we have a temporary music minister who's doing
Yes.
an excellent job.
right?
However, she seems very insistent on playing the whole song.
Right. She loves the
So-
whole song.
At the start of Mass, I felt like you were very specifically avoiding making eye contact with me because I was chuckling because we were 3 or 4 verses in.
We were. I was standing at my chair for a long time this weekend.
Were
And I
you
felt
avoiding
that.
making eye contact with me? Because I felt like you kind of...
I can neither confirm nor deny that I was avoiding making eye
Now,
contact.
to be fair, you probably avoid making eye contact with me because when you were pretty new to our parish, you announced you were going to be gone one weekend and you saw me doing a fist pump.
Right. Yes.
Listeners, Father Peter's an excellent homilist.
This is true.
Do not take this as me criticizing his ability to say a mass.
So, what makes a good homily?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I don't have to listen to very many anymore. So, what do you think makes a good homily?
Well, as I told you in the beginning and middle and end,
That's right.
And the closer those 3 things are together.
there's a theme. I mean, it kind of follows something.
I think one of the interesting things about you, and we've talked about this, you were raised in a Protestant household
Right.
by a Protestant minister, and you have a very, to me, John, agree or disagree,
Mhm.
you have a very distinct cadence.
Yes,
And to me, it's much more akin to what you would hear in a
I
Protestant
think that's
church.
true. I think that's true. Years ago, when I was an associate pastor at a parish, the the second reading for the Sunday was by St. Paul, of course, and he said something like, "I'm giving testimony, blah 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 blah." So, my opening illustration was on my experience growing up in a Protestant church where people would give testimony and testify to what God has done in their life. And as I'm out in the narthex shaking hands after Mass, two little old ladies come out, and one turns to the other and says, "Is he Catholic?"
Was this at our parish?
No.
That's awesome.
So,
Well, he's also, you're a little bit prone to hyperbole, and
just because you disagree with who is the greatest rock band of all time does not mean I'm prone to hyperbole.
Well, Tom's favorite is Uncle Cracker, or it's Seals and Crofts, or
that's
something
right.
like that.
Uncle Cracker. That's where
That's your top 5
it
all time.
begins. Nah, I don't know that it is.
That was number 6 then. Yeah.
You alienated a lot of parishioners when you said in a homily that U2 was the greatest rock band of all time.
I don't think a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, all the older people were like, "Oh, I've heard of them,"
Yeah.
and then
And all the younger people are like, this dude's crazy.
That's right. Yeah, they ever said, "You too"? He's talking about you too. He's talking about me. They probably didn't get the band kind of.
But
reference.
you did kind of redeem yourself by forwarding an article that the gist of it was, it turns out nobody liked you
That's
too.
right.
It's just everybody thought everyone else did.
Oh, poor you two.
So I think a good homily is something where it's relatable.
Yes.
It has some integration as far as the readings, preaching about the readings. It's kind of the balance of a little bit of theology, catechesis, and something you take home. It's a little practical way.
Yeah, I think that last piece is really important. That theology is important, but kind of theology tends to shape what I say or don't say, rather than me teaching theology in the homily. The church says that the homily could be catechetical, but it's better if it's what it calls breaking open the word, and not as straightforward a catechetical lesson. So I think theology shapes what we say, but how do I get to enter into the story of Scripture, right? And so that's what I try to do. And then I always try to leave something for folks to think about later. I don't know if people do, but at least I give them the opportunity to ponder it on Tuesday, because I try not to come up with all the answers myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you do a good job of making, you usually, not always, but you usually make some reference to something that's going on in the world today.
Right.
And I think that's important, because the world is very different from the world in the time of Jesus and the apostles. But people really aren't that different.
That's right.
That's true.
People are the same. People are people, so why?
Nice Depeche Mode. Okay.
Wow, I had no idea that
right.
was Depeche
Well,
Mode.
again, Uncle Cracker's your
Pretty
favorite.
sure if Depeche Mode were here, they wouldn't have recognized
Oh,
I
hard.
was listening to Winger or Uncle Cracker every day.
that. There is no winger on the Pool Party 2022 playlist.
The playlist actually is quite good. There's some deep cuts.
We should mention, I don't know how strong our mic is, but it's probably picking up a lot of ambient noise.
We're outside tonight.
Yeah, we're doing our summer, what'd you call this?
Summer variety special.
We're doing it outside.
That's right.
It's a pleasant evening.
Lovely.
It's not humid. So it's starting to get a little bit almost chilly.
Yeah, well, it's quite comfortable. You got this beautiful pool here, and
I thought we were on a yacht in the Caribbean.
well, we just docked. So it's very quiet. So summertime, things kind of slow down the church a bit. Not quite as busy.
That's true. I mean, the school's closed. Our youth minister is very active, so there's a lot of youth camps and activities on campus this summer. But we don't do a lot of programming over the summer, so it allows me to regroup and refocus, and it's good.
So for any young men out there, being a priest, that gig's basically a September to...
Not what I said, dear listener. Not what I said.
Think about it, guys. Think about it. You need to be a priest.
That's true. You-
You are. We have a pretty successful program at our church where you have encouraged high school age boys to participate in the liturgy,
right?
and high school age girls.
Yeah.
The boys are a little more visible. Why, other than the vocations aspect, why do you feel like that's important?
So Thomas Aquinas says, "Habitus est virtus." Habit is a virtue. It can also read the other way: virtue is a habit. And so he's identifying something that I think is really important in the spiritual life, and that is we talk all the time about bad habits, but goodness is a habit as well, right? And so if we form people to good habits, they will be much more likely to continue to do the good than otherwise. And so by making something special for high school young men at the Mass, it encourages them to come to Mass. And that forms them in the habit of going to Mass.
It's a nice back door.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, if Mass is a little bit more interesting or fun because you get to do some extra stuff as a high school guy, then you're more likely to come. And I hope that's true. You both have young men in the program that they don't seem to dread coming to Mass on the weekends. So
No, Tom's son is watching YouTube videos probably as we speak about
right.
Latin or something like that. So when he hears this podcast, he'll be delighted that Father Peter spoke some Latin. So,
well, I'm glad you said that because I really would like in the comments. I assume if we ever publish this, we're going to have comments. For Lent this year, one of my Lenten, not obligations, resolution was I wanted to learn the Our Father in Latin. I failed. I only learned about the first third of it, maybe half.
Did you even try?
I did, not as hard as I should have. But here's what sticks in my mind about it. Father Peter was brutal in his assessment of the quality of my Latin pronunciation.
Oh, so he actually tried it out.
I mean, it was very Hoosier.
Well,
and my pronunciation is not great, but it was very Hoosier. I think that the MC program also teaches or reinforces some good leadership skills because they're in charge of the younger servers, and it teaches them how to lead without kind of being bossy. So I think there's a lot of good fruit that's going to come from this program.
I think so too, and we've never really asked our boys. I don't know, within like their own circles, it's great, and they talk about a lot of things. I don't know how that's viewed with other high school students, and
yeah, I don't either.
I mean, I doubt they walk around their high school and ask, "Hey,
right.
you know, there's a fly by big."
They did come up with the idea that they needed shirts that said "You got to earn the legs."
Right.
Well, and my son wears that pretty much everywhere. It's not like it's there's any kind of fear. It's just like what's clean.
No.
So, yeah, that's you have to kind of keep that in context. I think there's a crucifix, there's a cross on that shirt too.
But at some point, too soon for some, not soon enough for others, you will leave our parish,
right,
and you'll go someplace else.
Right.
Is that a program that you envision basically starting at every parish that you?
Well, God willing.
He's already running it out of here.
No.
Exit strategy.
God willing, I only have one other assignment after this before retirement. If I serve 12 years here, I will be 58 when I leave my current assignment, and then I'll have 12 years until retirement.
It's cute that he thinks he's going to.
They'll raise retirement age to 80. Wheel him out.
I will collapse long before 80. But yes, I do think and I'm not the only one who has started this. It looks differently with different priests.
Well, you kind of stole the idea, right?
Serving is not a new idea.
Borrowed.
Right. I mean, having servers is an ancient
I know.
practice of
Okay,
the church.
but
yes.
Well, actually, we're giving you credit. The idea kind of started before you joined us.
Yeah,
it was
the
one of our
vocations
deacons.
committee presented
Who?
the vocations committee.
That's right.
Probably the most underappreciated.
So
of-
says
of
the president of
committees.
the committee. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
this administration's going poorly already.
I haven't gotten any
Meetings.
emails about meetings in a
Yeah.
while for the vocations
Yeah.
committee.
Well, it's summer.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
We shut down for the summer. Yeah, that actually has been really good fruits. We've had a lot of young people be involved in the MC program, serving,
And the sacristan program for young
sacristan
women.
program. Yeah, it's been really good. It's sometimes probably 6 to 8 servers
Yeah.
per mass.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the Saturday afternoon mass, for whatever reason, is popular with families with high school guys, and it is not unusual to have 6 MCs at that mass. So
Mm-hmm.
Right. My youngest loves when mass starts to count the number of servers
okay,
to see if we're at a new record.
okay. I think the record is 10.
It is.
The servers
record
keep
is
track
10.
of it for me.
Yes, the record is 10.
So,
It's a lot of young men on the altar.
so how many are too many?
I mean, we're limited by like space and chairs, but I don't say no to anybody who wants to serve.
I think if 15 showed up, you would put 15
I
chairs
would.
up there.
I'd figure it out.
So it's not one of those where we're on the 8th verse of the song because Father Peter hasn't processed in. There's just too many altar
Right.
boys.
No, we're not
That could
there yet.
happen.
We're not there yet.
Hopefully, it will be something though. I think we'll get some good vocations out of that.
Mhm.
Maybe the best thing from the committee so far, Tom. This is all before your tutelage and everything else.
Yes,
So-
before my reign of terror. So
Next year, in the spring, this coming spring, we'll launch a marriage enrichment program. That's also an idea, a request given to me by the vocations committee.
which is a committee that's very good at ideas.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Execution, probably not their strong suit.
just coming up with more work for me to do is what seems like it's the vocations committee.
Well, I mean, you have one full day off every week.
Right.
Right. That's right.
Yes, I only work about 2 to 3 hours on my day off. So
I hear there's 21 other hours.
Right.
That,
That's right. Well, again, we have an associate now too, so it kind of lightens the load. And
So let's talk about associates for how is an associate a challenge? Because in the modern church, an associate is not going to be there very long because you just don't
That's
don't
right.
have enough, right?
Right.
So is it tough balancing what to and what not to give to an associate?
It is, and it's also tough balancing like respecting them and what they want to do with kind of what I feel the parish needs, and balancing all of that. They're kind of, in the old days, you hear stories from the older guys about like how pastors really lorded it over the associates. Some associate pastors didn't have keys to the rectory. If they weren't back by a certain time, they'd be locked out. That kind of thing. So, things are very different now, but it's still a struggle to not just be a boss, but to be a brother priest to an associate.
I would think the tough thing is now too for associates is that like that experience isn't very long lived.
Right.
I mean, so probably 30 years ago you may be in this 50 years ago associate for 10 years.
Oh, yeah. 50 years ago, you were certainly an associate for 10 years. 30 years ago, you were still an associate for a good 5.
And now it's
2, maybe 3.
So when you get together with your brother priests, is it kind of an odd dynamic because you've got
Because
such
I'm
a
so awesome.
That's right.
That's right. And
He's here. He's here.
it's difficult for the rest of them to deal with your
Right.
awesomeness. Also,
Also,
you've got such you've got a much larger age range than I think you do with typical coworkers.
yes,
Is that an odd
it
dynamic?
is. Like I will regularly have a drink and some good conversation with a guy in his 70s. And
Well, that's not. If anybody knows you, that's not surprising.
Right.
If you said I had a drink and a good conversation with a guy in his 30s, I think we'd all be a little shocked by that.
No, but that was the other half of the sentence, Tom. Also, the younger priests, we get along. We go to dinner kind of regularly, and my support group. I think the youngest member of my support group is 32, and I'm almost 50. So
It's a good range.
yeah.
So do you do how often do all the priests of the diocese get together?
We have opportunity to get together. We have 2 education days a year and 2 days of prayer a year. Those are in Advent and Lent. And then we have the Chrism Mass followed by a dinner for the priests. And then we have an annual, we call it a convocation. All the priests gather at St. Meinrad for 3 days. And
Is that optional?
It is, but the Archbishop, our current Archbishop, really expects you to attend.
I told Father Peter before we recorded that to me that always would kind of I would imagine like high school, just no women there, just kind of like a reunion and going back and seeing people. Some that could be good, some that could be,
Because you were at seminary for 3-4 years.
Like as a seminarian,
As a seminarian,
5 years I was in seminary.
5 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, you spend 5 years with these guys.
Yeah, I mean, those are the guys kind of in my immediate time frame. But I've been a priest for 13, so I've been having bourbon with Monsignor Shadle for 13 years. So
all the listeners are doing the math and like, well, what was he doing for the first 37 years? That's a whole nother series of podcasts.
Well, thank you for being with us today. I enjoyed hanging out with you guys poolside. The Catholic Summer Variety Special.
Right.
Really good.
Awesome.
One of these days, when we ever get this posted, we'll actually have some social media. So I want to hear back from you, our listeners. And
what's going to be really interesting is we'll make some sort of like pop culture reference, and people will be like, "That was like 8 years ago."
right. It was like recorded like 1988.
I was in middle school when that happened.
That's right. Adele only had one album when they recorded that. Have a great day.